I don't need them, I don't imagine. Excused. And I think Amy was gonna be on virtually, she mentioned. I don't know what's going on with that, but we can check that out. Well, we need a receipt of evidence, in her opinion.
Okie dokie. The County Board of Supervisors, June 21st meeting notice and agenda was posted in the Government Center in 2 places. Posted on the county website on June 10th, 2022, and was published in a legal newspaper the week of June 13th, 2022. In addition, on Friday, June 10th, 2022, at 9:17 p.m., the Office of the County Clerk distributed copies of such notice of meeting to supervisors and media via email or mail. The notice of amended agenda was posted in the Government Center, posted on the county website, and copies of such notice of meeting were distributed to supervisors and media via email on Friday, June 17th, 2022.
Does that sound, council?
It complies with the open meetings law.
A roll call.
Brad Olson,
He is excused. Potentially get her, but he's excused.
Doug Rowdy,
Present.
Steve Warndall,
Here.
Ryan Wood.
Here.
Tracy LeBlanc. Here. Dan Rook,
Here.
Barb McAfee.
Here.
Oh, Barbara, I'm sorry. I know you forgot.
Oh, thanks for remembering.
Sharon Kelly. Sharon Kelly. Kim O'Connell.
Here.
Amy Middleton.
Here.
Oh, yeah.
Hello,
Okay.
I'm here.
Is she? Oh, good, good. Okay.
Thank you.
Caller.
There she is.
Lou.
Here.
Denise Molly Prey. Here. Russ Arcan.
Here.
TJ Simone is
I excused.
excused. Okay. And John Monaprice.
Here.
Okay. So we have 13 of 15. Unknown caller.
And Johnny's got somebody too. Even worse.
Well, look on the side.
Well, pledge allegiance. You join me. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. On the agenda.
So move.
Second. Made and seconded as amended. All in favor, signify by aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Matters offered for adoption, the consent agenda, there are 2. The motion to approve.
I'll make a motion if I, okay.
Motion by Dave. Second. Second by John. All in favor, signify by aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Public comment.
There's nobody in here for public comment.
Public comment. No, or. Looks like somebody's coming up. Where do you see them coming at?
Right there.
That corner. Well, now he's leaving.
Maybe he's coming here.
Right here.
Nobody's in here for public comment.
Oh, you can.
Come down the hall, maybe say it right here.
Nobody's in here for public comment.
They're coming very far.
Is she trying to communicate more?
Yeah. Shabana, can you hear us?
I can hear you. Nobody's in
Yes.
here.
Apparently not.
Do you have any? There's, you can ask.
Any public comment?
Sir, are you trying to get public comment? No.
All right, no, hearing none, we'll move on to presentation of CJCC coordinator. And company.
Yeah, that one's touch screen over on that side there.
Take right off the ass.
Something happened.
Glad I'm not the only one that has technical difficulties.
Okay, he is on the line.
Amy, are you with us?
I am, but can you hear me?
Melissa, you should be able to load it up from the touch screen. I think. Double tap it. Yeah, you should be able to run it from there.
She's sharing the screen, so.
Uh-oh.
No, you can't. So this is all a test to see how you handle adversity. I go.
Like we have a little skit.
There we go. Okay.
Yeah, you just need to let Dave share it now.
I can hear Amy on the other.
You can't hear us, Shabana, but you can hear Amy.
I can hear Amy and mine is unmuted, so the speakers in here must not be up. Dave, can you check over there and see if the volume is down? Oh.
On which ones?
You guys all sound good. I can hear you just fine.
Okay. Now, Amy, can you try talking again?
Can you hear me now? I can hear you just fine. Is that good?
You're good.
Thank you.
Thanks, Shabana.
Got it. Yeah. Do I just go to run slideshow then?
Yeah, just run slideshow and just tap.
Okay, so we are the Polk County Criminal Justice Coordinating Council, the CJCC. Our team consists of 4 of us. So I started as the CJCC coordinator almost 5 months ago. It'll be 5 months next week. In previous experience, I was a deputy jailer in Sawyer County for about 5 years. I worked in Burnett County as a meth diversion case manager and a mental health case manager. And then I worked for Justice Point, a nonprofit in criminal justice that was contracted with Sawyer County and the LCO tribe to do their jail programs, pretrial screenings, and diversion. And then we also have Don Wortham. He was the interim coordinator, and he is also still helping with the CJCC. Primarily right now, he's helping us with our systems map and doing some of the data analyst work on that.
I'm Anna Anderson. I'm the treatment court case manager. My background is right out of college, I worked at a juvenile group home for girls. Then I went to Polk County Jail for just under a year. Went to probation. And
As an employee, right?
Yeah.
Be careful with that
Picture. Then I went to probation and parole, worked out of Polk County for 9.5 years. Went to the clerk's office in St. Croix County for 3.5. And here I am.
I'm Julie Pokrivka, diversion case manager. My experience is similar to theirs. I did probation and corrections in Ramsey County, also did corrections in Chisago County, spent a little while in dispatch for Minneapolis before I came here.
So tonight we're going to talk a little bit about our mission statement, the members of the CJCC, a history of the Polk County CJCC, our subcommittees, our programs, and our future goals. So the mission of the CJCC is to reduce crime and recidivism in Polk County and to increase offender accountability and positive change. Our members include a judge or Polk County designee, the county administrator or designee, a county board chairperson or designee, the sheriff or designee, jail captain, the clerk of circuit courts, a representative from the district attorney's office,
a representative from the State Public Defender's Office, a victim witness coordinator, an agent or supervisor from the Department of Corrections, Probation and Parole, the Community Services Division Director, Corporation Counsel, and 3 citizen members selected by the council. And I will add, all of our meetings are open to the public, and we encourage anyone to attend. So the first program, there wasn't a CJCC yet, but the first program that was moving in that direction was in 2008, when the treatment court began with 3 participants. In 2009, the CJCC was formed as a 501c3 nonprofit. In 2019, the CJCC transitioned from a nonprofit into a Polk County entity. There's a couple of reasons for that. One being that as a nonprofit, they relied solely on funding, and some of the big donors for that, actually, once they realized that most counties had gone to the CJCC being under the umbrella of the county, decided to move away from funding that. And then through being under the county, the CJCC is eligible for TAD funding through the state. So that's treatment and diversion funding. And so that's what operates. And then in 2021, the Intoxicated Driver Intervention Program, the IDIP program, moved from behavioral health to the CJCC. And that's under one of Julie's programs through the district attorney's office now. And as of 2022, the CJCC is fully staffed and operates 4 programs. And now all of our subcommittees have started and are scheduled for regular meetings. So our subcommittees include the Executive Committee, Community Engagement Committee, Program Committee, and Public Safety and Criminal Justice Committee. So the Executive Committee decides like what gets brought forth to the full CJCC meetings, which are quarterly. And sometimes they make decisions on their own. Sometimes they decided something for the full board to discuss. The Community Engagement Committee, basically in its title, it helps us to get information about what's going on with the CJCC out to the community. They have a lot of suggestions for speakers for our full meetings. So like the last full CJCC meeting last week, we had information about what's going on in the community as far as like drug use, tobacco use in schools, etc. The program committee just started a couple of months ago, and that is to really look at what our programs are. Do we have areas, like holes that we're missing in the community, a need for more programs? And they also help us to evaluate our programs to see if they are effective. And the Public Safety and Criminal Justice Committee meeting just started meeting last week. And that is to look at trends in crime and ways to solve these issues, whether it's just in our communities here in Polk County, whether that's at a state level or federal level, just to really get a broad picture of what we're seeing going on with crime. And again, these meetings are open to the public, and our next full CJCC meeting occurs on Thursday, September 15th at noon in this room. So our programs are the first time offender FTO program, intoxicated driver intervention IDIP program, substance diversion, and treatment court.
All right, so I'm going to talk about first-time offender. This is one of our diversion programs. I will talk about the first 3 programs that Melissa listed. Our first-time offender program is our pre-charge diversion program. So this is something that happens before an individual is even charged. It's for our low-risk offenders. They're people who have never been charged with a crime before, so they don't have a criminal history or criminal record. We want to avoid them getting one. And so when there's police contact, it results in potential charges. So typically they have contact with law enforcement, they write up the report and then send that report to the district attorney's office, referring them for charges. Then the DA's office can decide whether they want to go forward with those charges or not. When we find someone who meets criteria for this program, again, somebody who doesn't have a criminal record, then they send that referral to me, and then I reach out to the person and put them through this program. If they so choose, it is voluntary. If they it's also our misdemeanors and low-level felonies. Typically, we see possession of THC and possession of drug paraphernalia. On occasion, we get disorderly conduct or retail theft. They have to complete the program, and then after they're done with everything, remain crime-free for that duration and for 90 days after. So once they're done with the program, we set a reminder for 90 days out. We run a check if they stay crime-free for that entire duration. Then we close out their case and their charges are never filed. So they were technically never charged with that crime. So again, it is pre-charged. So we're trying to help these people avoid a criminal record. Our intoxicated driver intervention program, a lot of words, why we call it IDIP. This is a post-charge diversion program. It's designed for our second and third offense OWIs. In Wisconsin, a first is just a traffic violation. After a third, as a whole, we've kind of determined that after your third, you need a little bit more than what our program offers you. It gives our participants the opportunity to change their behavior related to alcohol and drug use while gaining education related to impaired driving. So it is a very busy program. There's a lot of things that these people have to do, starting with an AODA assessment. They have to complete that assessment and follow through with any recommendations. Most times that is treatment, and treatment can take 12 to 26 weeks. It's very engaged, and they have to go through all of it and be successfully discharged from treatment at the end to count as being successful in that. They also have to attend a victim impact panel. We do that through Restorative Services right now. They put on a great program where they have victims of drunk driving, family of people who have lost others in drunk driving accidents, and they have to sit and listen to a panel of speakers share their stories and how choices of drunk driving can impact other people around them. We get good feedback on the victim impact panels, people saying that they don't really think about it until after the fact. And then community service hours varies. We have a brochure, and it's kind of broken down based on what offense it is, second or third, and then based on your BAC level, which is your blood alcohol content level. Obviously, the higher up you are, the more your requirements are going to be. Our community service hours, I think, range from the lowest is 25 hours, and it goes up to like 175 hours. So if you're a third with a high BAC, you're looking at 150 hours or roughly. And then jail days. If you're in the IDIP program, your jail days are lessened than if you weren't in the program, which is a big selling point for people because no one wants to spend time in jail. But they do all, regardless of where you fall, second or third or BAC, you're going to sit some jail days. And kind of in lieu of that, you do the community service hours. We've had some pushback on that, but I think community service hours are great. It gives back to our community. On top of that, most of the people have a full-time job, so they can't go and do 8 hours of community service on one day. So those 150 hours take them months because they can only do 2 or 3 hours a day if they're even going every day. So they have to do all of these things prior to their plea and sentencing hearing. So they've already been charged. They go through and they are offered this by the district attorney's office. If they so choose to participate in it, they can complete all of these things in full. And if they do, then they get the advantage of lower jail days. The last program that I run is our substance diversion program. This is also a post-charge diversion program. We run this on DAGPs, which are deferred acceptance of a guilty plea. So these are individuals involved in substance use motivated criminal behavior. When we first started this program, we were kind of specifically looking for drug-related charges. We have further looked into our grant and what the grant tells us that we can do, and we can look at substance use motivated criminal behavior. So we could have people who do things other than drug specific charges. So it doesn't have to be possession of meth. It could be any other kind of charge as long as that criminal behavior was motivated by their drug or alcohol use. So we've kind of broadened that. It is for our low to moderate risk people. These are our people who, and Anna will talk about treatment court a little later. The people in this program are low to moderate risk. Treatment court is more for high risk people. So these are people who maybe aren't necessarily as involved in the drug and alcohol community or engaged as deeply as other people. So our goal is to reduce crime by providing treatment, structure, and accountability. This is also a very intense program. There's a lot of personal accountability for these people. They are low to moderate risk people, so we don't want to overprogram them because best practice shows that that's actually bad for them. So they do have to go to treatment. They have to complete the assessment, go to any treatment that they're recommended to go to. And then they have to meet with me once a week at the beginning. If they're doing everything they can, then we can lower that as they improve. And then they're also starting out on 3 random UAs a week. So they go to our jail over here in the Huber area and complete 3 random UAs every week. So we're making sure that they're sober and clean and they're doing everything that they need to do. And when I refer to a deferred acceptance of the guilty plea, if people don't know what that is, when they go through the court system, they plead guilty to the charge that they have in front of them. But the judge kind of holds off on accepting it and he says, I'm not going to accept it and I'm going to kind of hold on to it for now. They have an agreement that they sign. It's usually 2 to 3 years long, and they have to abide by all the conditions of that agreement for the duration of that 2 to 3 years. And then if they come back at the end and they've abided by all those conditions, then the case will be dismissed. Within that deferred acceptance of the guilty plea, one of those conditions is completing this program. This program can be completed in 12 months, but their agreement that they signed in court continues to go for the rest of it. So they could finish this program but still be bound by their DAGP. So if they successfully complete the program and follow all of the other conditions, their charges will be dismissed at the end. Again, they must complete assessments, follow recommendations, meet with me once a week, and complete random UAs 3 times a week. Again, these numbers can change depending on how they're doing in the program. If they're showing up for all of their treatment meetings, they're meeting with me every week, they're staying sober, we can lower those because we don't want to overprogram somebody who doesn't need it.
And I'm the treatment court case manager at Penn. So the mission of the Polk County Treatment Court is to improve the safety of our citizens and reduce the destructive cycle of substance abuse and mental health disorders. The court can accomplish this by enhancing the productivity of participants while reducing recidivism and decreasing the financial burden on the taxpayer. So we have a team that meets. We meet every Friday. We staff all the cases that are going to be seen that morning. Treatment court is at 10 o'clock or 9 o'clock when all the participants come in. So that consists of a judge, a representative from the district attorney's office, a representative from the public defender's office, law enforcement, probation and parole agent, treatment court coordinator, a treatment professional, and then myself.
It's Friday, right?
Right, yes.
At 9, and anyone's welcome to come.
Yes, it is open to the public. So the way that we get referrals are, a lot of them come from probation, and they may be an alternative to revocation. It could just be a rule modification. Also, they could be sentenced to treatment court. Those are the main ways anybody can refer somebody to treatment court. So it can be a self-referral, and we do look at every referral that we get. So these are our high-risk, high-need individuals. They have to have a moderate to severe substance use disorder. They have to be over the age of 18 and charged or convicted of an alcohol or illicit substance-related crime. It's a 4-stage program. So the first stage is 30 days, the second stage is 90, third stage is 90, and the fourth stage is 120 days. I think that all adds up to 330 days if you're 100% perfect in the program.
Okay, so future goals for the CJCC. One is to complete the systems map for the Department of Justice. That is so we can continue to receive our CAD funding. And again, that's something that Don Wortham, previous interim coordinator, is assisting us with. Rebuilding the community service relationships and establishing community service sites. We've been trying to pick communities as time allows, go to all the nonprofits in the area, meet with them, see what our participants in both treatment court and Julie's diversion programs would need to do to be able to volunteer there. And then pretrial assessments in the jail to assist with bond decisions and increase referrals to all of our CJCC programs. That is actually in the works right now. We just started it last week. We're just working out the kinks for that. And I think we're getting pretty close to having everything resolved. So this will assist the judges in knowing whether someone's low risk to be out in the community, moderate risk or high risk. And then again, it'll be a cue to us that maybe we need to do a further assessment to see if someone would be eligible for one of our programs. So that way we can be notifying the public defender's office and the district attorney's office so that no one is being overlooked for programs. So the way to get started is to quit talking and begin doing. When I first started, everyone's like, we just have talked and talked and talked about doing stuff and we haven't actually followed through. So the three of us have really been trying to get moving on all the goals. Anna's relatively new. She started in November. I started end of January. So just trying to push forward and accomplish all the goals that the county board in the past has had for the CJCC and what other members of the CJCC would like to see. So if you have questions or comments, we have our information on the main CJCC line is 715-485-8458. And it'll put you in a little phone tree so you can select any of our names. And we're more than happy to answer any questions, or if anyone ever wants to come to treatment court or any of the meetings, feel free to let us know and we can send you invites for that.
Melissa, moving forward, I do think it would be important. Can you tell the council or the board about the new screening procedures and what we've done to identify people and to work with the judges on their bonds and to get them into diversion?
Yeah, so the screening that we're using, it's actually through North Point. That's who we have access to our compass assessment. And we went that route because that's what probation is using to assess people. So when we're getting people in treatment court, those are people that scored high risk, high needs on the compass assessment. So that pretrial screen looks at your past criminal history, failure to appear in court. Do they have substance issues? Do they have stable housing? Do they have stable employment? And so through that, the jail is asking them 3 questions in the booking process, and then we are running the criminal history through the district attorney's office. And so it's helping the judges know when cash bond is appropriate or when signature bond is appropriate. And then also for us, we're getting that criminal history ahead of time. So as long as someone is not considered a violent felon under chapter 165, I don't remember the rest of it, but it's a state statute that our TAD fund guides us through. So then we know if someone's even eligible for one of our programs, so we know if we can do the full compass, which takes more time. Do you have any questions?
How many people are in the program right now?
In treatment court,
Yeah, in all the treatment deals, all of this. How many are in each program?
treatment court currently has 11 people. 17 is our capacity, so we're trying to get that up closer to the 17 right now.
I think we actually send our scorecard. If you guys talk about it later. IDIP has, I think, 9 people currently going through the program. We have, I think, 13 offers out, waiting if people so choose. Our substance diversion program has 2, and our first-time offender program is kind of like a rolling number because they come and go so quickly. I think currently there's 5.
Anyone else?
Any other questions? Thank you very much.
Yes, thank you for your time.
Okay. Now listen, hopefully, there's a presentation from Dr. John Will from the Northwood College. We've had some communication with them and it's been very favorable, and thank you, Andy.
Yes, thank you.
Presentation for tonight.
Good luck. Good evening, everybody. Actually, can you just take one and just, yes, no, oh, okay, you're a step ahead of me.
Yeah, Mr. Will, as you know, Northwood Tech is right next door to us, used to be WITC. And Chairman Luke made it a point to me to say, let's get together, because one of his priorities, Jay's priorities, is to find some synergy with Northwood Tech, because we think it has an opportunity to not only help our community, but help our businesses and help our citizens, and we can help them as well.
All right.
Oh, yeah.
We got one.
1 second. Oh, actually, what I'll do is introduce myself real quick while we're getting this squared away. I haven't been here in a couple of years, so some of you may have seen me present at the county board previously, or maybe at some other community event, but my name again is John Will. I am originally from Ladysmith, Wisconsin, so I've lived in Northwest Wisconsin my whole life. Currently live in Birchwood, Wisconsin, and so a lifelong resident of the area. I've been in this role for about 8 years, and with the college overall about 14. And in between there, I did some work in economic development. And so I had kind of 2 different stints with the college. I have a pretty good understanding of college operations and the history of the college in the region. I'm going to talk tonight about our whole college district. And the entire college district is white there. And you can see the other blue lines represent other technical colleges in the state. So there's 15 technical college districts in Wisconsin. We're a municipality, a government, sort of like a county. And in Wisconsin, the counties have a very important role to play in our governance structure. The county board chairs either participate in or assign someone to participate in the selection of our board of trustees. And so my bosses, my 9-member board, is selected by the 11 county board chairs. We meet about annually. Sometimes we have to meet more than once, but just so you're aware, the counties do play a critical role in our governance structure. And you can see that we're the largest by geography, but as you know, it's a pretty sparsely populated region, about 320,000 people in that area. And to help serve them, we do it a little bit different than most colleges. We have small campuses located throughout the region. So Rice Lake and Richmond are the 2 closest to this area. And then Superior and Ashland are our 2 northern campuses. Hayward, Hayward and Ladysmith, I won't talk too much about. Shell Lake, I'm going to come back to. And of course, we just developed a partnership with Polk County and established the Balsam Lake Outreach Center prior to the pandemic. And honestly, that did not get off the ground the way we wanted it to. We were closing down a lot of programming the last couple of years and offering it in different ways. And so now with the chair and Supervisor Kelly and with Vince, we talked about future plans and believe that we'll be able to start kind of continue on with what we had hoped to start a couple of years ago. Our Dean of Students was just there today presenting to the EDC, and so we'll continue to try to make sure that we make that a useful asset in the community. Just as a reminder, we did spend about $200,000 rehabbing the interior, not rehabbing, but updating the interior to look like one of our campuses. So if you haven't been in that building, if you go into the side that we have, it looks and feels just like one of the college campuses, and I encourage you if you haven't been in there to take a look. We're also working on signage, and so I can't remember. I should have looked that up. That was kind of a airball by me to have to look that up, but we are working on signage. I believe by fall we'll have new signage outside of the government center and new directional signage for the campus. And then I'm going to come back and talk about the Health Education Center later, which is located not too far away in Shell Lake. So we do a lot of non-credit programming, things that don't lead to degrees. So seminars, workshops, those kinds of things. If you look at just the programming that we offer that leads to a certificate, a technical diploma, or an associate's degree, we have more than 100 different programs at the college, and they're offered in a wide variety of ways. I'll talk a little bit more about our enrollment later, but this is one that I really like to put up, we are a nationally top-ranked college, and want to make sure people in our communities know they have a great resource close to home at our college. The most recent one was the Smart Asset Ranking. That was number 3 out of over 800 colleges in the country. You can probably guess by the name Smart Asset, they were looking at financial aspects of attending college. And then a very prestigious one, the Aspen Institute selects the top 150 colleges every 2 years. And our college has been named one of the top 150 colleges every time they've done that. And we've been ranked by Forbes magazine, Washington Monthly, and then are very proud to be recognized as a military-friendly institution and went up a notch in that in its most recent ranking. Some of those rankings, we don't strive to get ranked, but they look at things like job placement and starting pay. And so in our system in Wisconsin, we're known throughout the country as doing a really good job of measuring those kinds of outcomes in our 2-year college system. Our placement rate is pretty typical of the technical colleges in Wisconsin, 93% placement within 6 months of graduation. I used to feel a lot better about that when unemployment was not like 2.5%. But there's lots of reasons why people get an education and don't get employed immediately. And as some of you may know, we're working really hard to work with special populations, people who traditionally haven't accessed higher education, and sometimes after they complete, finding employment takes a little bit longer than it does for some of our historical graduates. And then the most recent graduate follow-up information showed that the average starting pay was $46,453 for the May 2021 group of graduates, so a year ago. And I would expect that to increase based on everything that we're hearing about the labor market and inflation and wage levels. And the follow-up question is, well, which programs are the ones that pay the best? I don't think anybody would be too surprised to see that number one is associate degree nurses. Huge shortage in nurses that was exacerbated by the pandemic. We actually had to shrink our programming because there were capacity issues related to our partnerships that we have with medical facilities. They couldn't support as many clinicals. Actually, that connects to what I'm going to talk about with the Health Education Center later. So we were adapting and medical providers were adapting, but we could not guarantee clinical sites for students. And so we couldn't admit as many students. We're still feeling the effects of that in our enrollments. But the average starting pay was $74,000 for those big graduates, which is pretty good for a 2-year degree. Truck driving is a relatively new program that started about 4 years ago. I like to say we started that with duct tape and staples. We had a donated tractor trailer and a donated flatbed trailer. And our economics instructor actually had been a truck driver early in his career, and he was kind of ending his career. So he overheard us talking about wanting to do truck driving, trying to not having a way to kind of get it off the ground. And he said, hey, I'll teach that. And we're like, you're not a truck driver. But he was. And so he got that going for us. We went from 0 graduates in CELA and B about 4 years ago to 177 last year. We've been able to offer that in many locations throughout the college district, both private to companies on a private contract basis, which a lot of people don't even know we do, but companies can hire us to teach certain things to their employees. And that's more expensive than if you were to open enroll in a class. For truck driving, just as an example, one of the first companies paid us $5,000 for one employee to go through and get trained because they knew that it was a good, reliable employee and they couldn't get their product out. So it was worth it to them to hire us to come in and train that one employee. And so obviously average starting pay there at $57,000 is really great for a 10-week program. Welding is a long-standing program, one of our largest programs. Architectural commercial design comes in 4th, and EMT paramedic comes in 5th in this latest group of graduates. So we're kind of obsessed with information in Wisconsin. I just got back from a national conference last week and was talking to colleges from other states. They don't measure many of them, I shouldn't say all of them, but they don't measure how well their graduates do when they graduate. We take it a step further. We contact, about every 4 years, we contact students who graduated 5 years ago and ask them how they're doing. And what we find is that they realize about a 48% increase in their comp, which is, obviously really good and pretty consistent with other technical colleges in the state. You see about a 50% increase. Some a little above that, some a little below it, but we're right about the middle. Sometimes that happens because students go on and get more education. So like our nursing students, that's a really easy example. Many of our nursing graduates end up getting a 4-year degree, master's degree, and many even go on to get doctorate degrees. And we have articulation agreements with universities to help them make that happen in a really easy way. But all of our associate degree programs now have an articulation agreement with at least one university. And so that's something we worked on in our last strategic plan to make sure that students who went to our college had a pathway to get more education if they wanted it, because we know there's a lot of data that shows if you can achieve higher levels of education, you tend to have lower unemployment and higher wages over time. We also create articulation with K-12 school districts. So we're kind of in the middle, trying to cooperate with lots of other educational institutions. This shows dual credit, and there's a good question by Supervisor Kelly. She noticed there was a school that she's familiar with that wasn't on here. What this represents is when a faculty member in a school is qualified to teach college curriculums. That means they meet accreditation standards for us, not for the school. Then we can hand them our curriculum and they teach it with a mentor from the college, and we don't charge the students or the school. It's called an exchange of services contract that we do with them. And so that's a really good deal for the public because students get access to college level classes. They don't have to pay tuition. And so if you add up the value of the tuition savings, it's just under 700,000. This number went down. It was about $1 million prior to the pandemic. And we're seeing it come back this year. So I do expect that to return. But the trick there is you got to have a faculty member at the K-12 level who's qualified to teach college level curriculum. So sometimes schools want to do this, but they don't have teachers who are eligible to do it. And sometimes teachers want to do it, but it's pretty challenging to go back and get more education or something like this. Doesn't usually affect their compensation. Sure, go ahead.
Okay, I did notice that Clear Lake, St. Clair Falls, and Osceola were not on there, and I'm very familiar with the program. My daughter was in it. But they also did telelearning was also part of it. Is that not an option anymore?
No, that's a different. So this is just dual credit students. And I put this one up here because it's the easiest one to sort of explain the collaboration. But K-12 students, Clear Lake is an easy example. Clear Lake about every other year has run a construction essentials academy. And so they're small. And so they don't have enough students to go through this short-term construction training every year. And so they've been doing it about every other year. Then they combine juniors and seniors, maybe sophomores, and they go through the short-term college curriculum. But that's not dual credit. They contract with us to do that because they have to usually use one of our instructors. And so by law, we have to charge them for that. And so that wouldn't show up in these numbers. Nursing assistant is another one. We have a lot of high school kids who go through nursing assistant, but that's not dual credit. So that wouldn't show up here. The last one is a program called Start College Now, which is maybe what you're talking about. If a school doesn't offer a class, in Wisconsin law, it says that that student can access programming if they're eligible for college. And so for a lot of our rural school districts now, that means that they have access to a whole bunch of virtual programming. And then the difference with that is that the school has to pay us the tuition rate for those students. So that one's always a little bit tricky. The school budgets aren't like flush with money. And so I was a business manager at one point. I always hated getting the bill from the college at the end of the year because I didn't know how much it was going to be and I didn't know where it was coming from. But it's a great thing for students to have access to. So that wouldn't be reflected up here. Overall, you take the 44 school districts in our region and that footprint that I showed at the beginning, there's about 3,400 high school seniors every year. So each class, if you added all the classes together, is about 3,400. We're serving about 1,700. So about half of the students will get some kind of credit from the college before they graduate from high school.
Are these numbers just Northwood Tech dual credit?
So if there's another college, like if we don't offer a program, CBTC, for example, could come in and offer something that we don't. So they're supposed to not do that unless we don't offer it. But if that happens, there could be dual credit arrangements with other colleges that don't show up in there too.
There was a dual credit through UW River Falls for chemistry that my daughter was in, but we had to pay like $600.
That would be through, those probably Start College Now. So that students have access to university programming through that same program that I described before.
But this was taught by the regular high school chemistry teacher who had enough accreditation. So I just did. Anyway, sorry, Mr. Chair.
I wouldn't know about that one. Like universities may treat it different, and I'm honestly not that familiar. Universities function a little bit differently than the tech colleges are more independent. So they have their own policies. In the tech college system, we try to all sort of do it the same so that we don't have incentives for students to kind of bargain shop for classes. Any questions on this one? Okay, so now getting to enrollment, and enrollment is measured in a couple of many different ways, but the two primary ways are head count, which is the number of unduplicated people that we serve on an annual basis, and then full-time equivalents, which is taking all of the instructional hours that we provide and dividing it by 30. Now, why 30? 30 is take a full college load, 15 credits for 2 semesters, that adds up to 30 credit hours. And so that's where the 30 comes from. It's a way to compare colleges and universities to each other, even if they're doing completely different. Head count for us over the last couple of years took a hit when we shut down a lot of our in-person, a lot of our outreach programming in communities like this one throughout Northwest Wisconsin. So a lot of our in-person programming was affected. This year, we're up about 5% in head count, so we're seeing some recovery this year on a head count basis. FTE is basically flat. We're going to end up the year down about 1% in FTE. So we're up in one enrollment measure that measures like the number of people that we serve, and we're down in another one that measures total instructional hours. And so what that means, the story for our enrollment this year is that we have more people taking shorter term or part-time programs. And that fits in with what the labor market is telling us about opportunities, because a lot of people are making a rational choice to work more than go to school full time. And so counterintuitive to some people, but when the economy is really good, our enrollments, and when I say really good, I'm not talking about inflation. I gotta throw that caveat in there now. I haven't had to do that yet. But when unemployment is low, that'd be a more accurate way to say that. And there's a lot of demand for labor, our enrollments go down because we're not competing so much with other educational institutions. We're competing with the labor market. Giving up a $30,000 a year job or $40,000 a year job is the biggest cost of going to school. Hopefully that makes some sense. Oops. I hope you've seen some of our rebranding by now. If you haven't, we've done a really bad job of implementing that. This is one of my favorite students. That's my daughter, Anna. She had to listen to all of this when she was in high school. We were going through all the decision making related to that. So it's kind of cool. She got to get a picture with the new mascot on the mascot's first day. This is our primary branding. We have a mascot now, Blaze the Bear. And I'll talk a little bit about Blaze in just a second. And then this is something that you probably won't see much of. It's our college seal. So this goes on transcripts and official documents. So this is sort of reserved for special status, but harkens back to our first campus in 1912 and shows sort of the northwest part of the state in its image. People ask why a mascot if you're not going to do sports. The reason is we have an awful lot of students who do pretty cool things, and usually it's in academic competitions. So our BPA students, 4 of them placed at the National Leadership Conference in Dallas, including one who placed first in a county. And so that's a pretty cool achievement for our students. We think we should celebrate that just like we would a conference championship or something. And then these individuals are carpentry students. They're actually apprenticeship students. And they placed first, second, and third at the state competition for Skills USA. And then 2 of them, actually these 2, placed first and second at nationals. So they swept state and then got first and second at nationals. So that's one way that we want to use the mascot so that younger people see that we got lots of neat things happening at the college, and we're not a hokey tech kind of place. And then one of the other photos that hasn't made it into my slide deck yet, but I got a picture last week. We had a bunch of 3rd graders on campus because we start talking to students that early. They were touring campus. We've done this for many years. And it was just so cool to get a picture with them with Blaze, and we've got little teddy bears with Northwood Tech t-shirts on them now that we can give out to little kids. So I know those kids, they probably won't remember a welding booth or a machine tool lab, even though they're really cool. And we want them to associate with those kinds of things and getting good jobs. but I know they're gonna remember that mascot and the good time that they had at the college. So that's another reason why we're making those kinds of changes at the college. If you've ever been to the administrative office in Shell Lake, which is where my office used to be, it would now look something like this. We're gonna do some open houses this summer. But during the pandemic, our health sciences programming, so not just nursing, but things like occupational therapy assistant, medical assistant, and all the other occupations that make up our health sciences programming, which, by the way, is our largest cluster of programs. It's not trade and technical programs anymore. It's health programs, which is a reflection on the demographics of our region. This building, when you walk into it now, looks more like a clinic than it does, or a hospital than it does an administrative building. And what we found during the pandemic is that about half of our curriculum can be taught via high-tech mannequins, as they call it, high-fidelity simulation. And so there's 3 hospital rooms in this building, and there's about 5 exam rooms. And all of our health sciences students will take some of their clinical experience here rather than out in the communities at various medical facilities, nursing homes or hospitals. That'll take a little bit of the pressure off some of our partners in the medical field, which is a good thing. And the really neat thing is that for every 3 hours you spent in an on-site clinical experience in nursing, for example, you only need to spend 1 hour in a simulated environment. And that's because there's a control room where our faculty can control the responses of the high-tech mannequins. So these things, like you poke them and they say, ouch, kind of thing. But what that allows for is, if you think about being in a clinical setting, you have to wait for certain things to present themselves before you can be evaluated on it. If you're in a simulation environment, when you complete the competencies, you can move on to the next. And so it speeds things up in the clinical environment pretty dramatically. So even though we're going to have students from Ashland, Superior, Rice Lake, Richmond, and everywhere in between, having to do some of their clinicals here and incur some travel time will help them with that. It will actually save them time overall and make a more predictable schedule. Okay, this works about half time, it doesn't work about half time, so let's see if it works today. But this is just an example. What we're really trying to do is get people excited about our kind of programming at the college. And so we're moving to more of a high-tech image. Think about Michigan Tech. A lot of people know that university. They've taken that tech thing and turned it into something cool. And so we very intentionally, if you look at our website URL and a lot of our branding, we're embracing the tech part of it. We're not looking away from that. So we're going to go by Northwood Tech, not NTC or NWTC or Northwood Tech. And we want to make that a cool place to go and get education. So hopefully this works. So those kinds of ads, if you're in the Duluth TV market, you might see that more often than you do if you're in the Twin Cities market or the Eau Claire market, for a couple of different reasons, one being cost. But the way that's being pushed out now more often is through phones or through things like Hulu. We have a pretty sophisticated marketing operation at the college. And so these things get pushed out if you're in the target market. So not everybody sees these things because not everybody's in the target market. And so we're pretty excited by thank you to whoever did that. So before with the chair's permission, I open it up to questions. There's been a couple through the thing. I just want to know a couple of other things. There's some county specific information in your folder. There's a little sheet. Somebody, can I steal somebody's? A sheet that looks like this, and it's got county information highlighted, so you can see how many residents are being served, what percentage of our enrollments are made up in Polk County. What it's going to tell you is that in Polk County, we are doing a little bit worse than we are in some other counties, not dramatically, but a little bit. And that's something that back a couple of years ago, we wanted to try to address through the collaborative agreement on the outreach center. There's also information on our tax rate and that kind of information. They can certainly call me with questions about that. And then the other thing I wanted to mention, I didn't have a chance to get this in my slide deck, but we had some exciting news today. Governor Evers was at campus and announced that we were one of the successful applicants for the Workforce Innovation Grant. So we will be receiving $9.8 million in funding to fund 3 housing projects that will include on the first floor training room, and then we'll be acquiring about $4 million in mobile advanced manufacturing training equipment, which will kind of fill out our portfolio of mobile training equipment. We also got a grant for a mobile welding trailer. And so our vision for that is that in places like Balsam Lake, if we built a welding lab here, what would happen is we would offer it, we probably could fill it for a year or two, but then we'd saturate the market, and then we'd have $1 million lab that was not serving a purpose. So our vision for that is that every couple of years we can bring a sophisticated welding trailer to our location. We have bathrooms and a classroom for the math component of that program as an example, and then we can move away. And then hopefully we can schedule advanced manufacturing training later on. And then over a year period, we'll have different things going on, but on a more regular cycle. And so I don't know, that's probably, I could probably talk all night if you let me about that. And Chair's got a meeting to finish up here. So I'll stop there and open it up for anybody has any questions.
Does Northwood track it all? So when students take an articulated or a dual credit class at a high school, do you guys have any information on how many of those students then continue those credits at Northwood?
Yes, fantastic question. Glad you asked it. Most students who take dual credit go on to university. It's a horrible business decision for us to do dual credit through transfer to credit. Because most of those students, if you think about the school knows those students the best, and they're going to put them into those classes if they think they can be successful. So, but a lot of those students are university bound. So it's a horrible business decision for us. Hurts our FTE, but it's the right thing to do for the communities that we serve.
Right. No, we were talking about it economic development this morning about just people are bouncing around ideas to get more kids in programs and things like that. And I was just curious about, the rate at which they go from dual credit to Northwood, and not as a criticism or anything, but just like curiosity.
And so, I think that's a great question. Our trick is trying to get more students support so that they can be successful in college earlier. So that's what our more strategic focus is. We got to figure out how to offer this stuff, but getting more students who traditionally maybe wouldn't view themselves as college students.
Yeah.
In there, I think somebody's making a comment about welding. Welding is completely different. We have a welding academy at Richmond High School, for example, and those students, most of them end up coming to Northwood Tech. So it's in degree program, curriculum is in a degree program for hands-on programming, and almost all those they come to college. Or they get a job. I mean, that's the other thing. Thank you.
Go ahead, Steve. Local businesses contact you then to look for people for fill positions as they graduate?
They do sometimes, but the problem that we have with that is a lot of times I'll get a call from a company leader who will say, hey, can I come to your campus and recruit your students before they graduate? And it's kind of unfair to give one company an advantage over others. And so we direct them to a tool called Handshake. It's a recruiting tool, and it exists for all of the tech colleges. And so we ask employers to recruit off of that site. We direct our students to that site.
It's like the opposite of River Falls and Uline. They give Uline first crack at everybody.
Yeah, and we have a chance. We certainly welcome employers to come in and talk. But like a lot of times employers want us to tell them, well, who's your best student? Because that's the one I want to hire. And that would be unethical to direct this, our best students to the same employer over and over again. So we let the students make those decisions.
Anyone else? Mr. Chair? How many graduates in your district did you have in like 21?
1,450.
Do you like eligibility on assistance? Is Wisconsin, they have a priority over like out of state? Osceola has a bus that goes into Minnesota, part of the Franconia Township belongs to our district. So like somebody from Minnesota, do they pay a higher tuition?
Minnesotans do not.
So we do have reciprocity.
We do. With Minnesota, we do, but I believe that's the only state.
Yeah.
And you go from Superior to Hudson, that's our, we have a lot of Minnesota.
A lot of them.
And so that's important for us. And we're trying to, we want our college, one of the reasons we went through the rebranding process is we want colleges across the river to look at our college as a place to go to school, to try to get people to come here. Whether or not we're successful is like, that'll take years
Yeah,
and decades.
I think you have some agreements like with Pine City, Minnesota, their tech school. And
Pine Community and Technical College, we do have, like students who go to either one of those generally would have credit transfer to the other.
very glad to hear that. Thank you. Anyone else?
Quick, how come veterans using their Wisconsin GI Bill?
I don't know if I can answer that with a yes or a no, but we have a veteran services specialist who works with veterans to navigate GI Bill benefits. In addition to financial aid advisors who help everybody, because that is complicated for family members too. So they work with veterans and their family members. That's part of what led to that military friendly designation. And I didn't even say this, I don't think, but we serve about 15,000 people annually right now. That's the number of folks we serve, which is about 1 in 19 people in the district. And so that's, I feel like a pretty, hopefully we're providing services. If you're not getting service, hopefully you know somebody who does.
Anyone else? Thanks a lot. I think hope you can have me back not too distant future.
Always happy to
Because I think this is going to stimulate a lot of thought and ideas. We'll get back to you, I'm sure.
I appreciate you having me and have a great evening.
Thank you very much, John. Okay. All right. I think you all can see the benefit of that presentation. That's why we started early in the year here. Okay. Next, we are considering a resolution of ARPA funds to pay for the county belt.
Yeah, if I may, to kick off this conversation, and if you recall, we had, the original agenda had, I think, 3 or 4 different resolutions to deal with specific items. I had spoken with the General Government Committee, and they consensed an agreement with me that rather than what was preparing to happen was becoming a race to get a proposal in, to get it on a resolution and vote. People were kind of rushing to get different ideas in. So we thought the better approach, since we don't have all the answers and all the details of all these projects, was let's back off a little bit, take a breath, get some more information. And I've created some project teams to look at these so that we can answer the questions that need to be answered, and we can come to you with recommendations for best possible solutions in our mind as to what we should buy, how we should pay for it, what extent we should use it. That was consensus that we do that at the General Government Committee. Also, though, in the discussion was the fact that some of these items, like the roof of the Justice Center, is getting more and more expensive every month and every day. And so we put that in a separate resolution, which we'll get to in a little bit. The bell tower of the museum was one. Again, it's a kind of a capital improvement project, but it's something that has problems with it now and is getting worse. and again, getting more and more expensive. So that resolution is left here to consider the use of ARPA funds there, which we will discuss and can vote on. The number 11 on your agenda is the Justice Center roof that we moved separately. And I'll give you the quick answer. The reason for that is we have a line of credit of $8.1 million for projects on the building over there. And this one, if you remember, you all were smart to say, let's include anything we need to do on this building as well. Our line of credit of 8.1 million is at 2.1% interest. As we get into some things we're doing, for example, the ARPA money that we've received and are investing, we're already gathering an average of 2.85% interest. So the thought being is, let's look at the Justice Center roof as something we know we need to do, and let's consider using those funds from Bremer Bank. And then we have cash for other reasons going forward. So that's kind of a long-winded thing of saying what we're doing here. This page here is in front of you is kind of a summary of the different items. The top half is what we have approved already as a board. The bottom half are some of the ideas that have bubbled up, as the term I'm using, because those seems to have the most interest of you all.
Okay. Need a motion on the resolution? Yeah, question, Jim. Go ahead.
Resolution.
Well, get the motion first.
There's no resolution number on that.
Oh,
On me.
There is a number on it. There is a
yeah.
number. Yeah, same as the last one.
So where is it?
That's not on it.
Well,
Which one is this?
resolution,
10B doesn't have a resolution number on it. So we're not moving that one forward.
Correct. We don't have a resolution number.
It had a resolution number on it when it was that general government.
I can bring it up. I wasn't.
I thought we had it.
And we were sure given any information. I can bring it up.
That was the combined. No, there was separate ones. They were separated.
they were all totally separate.
I can try to go print. Bring it in here if you want to address the other one, the next agenda item first, and I'll go print that and we can circulate it.
Well, we wanted to get this moving, so. We hold off on this one and move to resolution 3222. Number 11. Let's do that.
Okay.
Okay, so 3222 is improvement on the Justice Center roof using the resolution is here, right?
Yeah.
That is.
That is the 8.1 million line of credit we have. 2.1% financing.
Need a motion on that resolution. I so move. Moved by John, seconded by. Second. Ryan, okay, any discussion? Go ahead, Kim.
I'm wondering why we want to borrow it. We're only, our CD is only good for 2 years. How long do we have to pay this off? How many years is the payoff if we borrow the money?
So right now, our debt is structured on a 10-year plan, although it goes down. I think after year 4, it drops substantially.
So for 10 years, but we have the money we could pay for it and not have a debt in 10 years. That's what I'm looking at. Do we make enough money?
Well, I can tell you the investments I did today if the administrator wants me to. So I've been restructuring our investments before we leave because in the last 30 days, we've seen a flip. We were getting 30 or 40 basis points for all our money. And now we're getting around 280 to 320 basis points. You're talking about going from a 0.3 or 0.4 to a 2.8 to a 3.2. So for instance, the ARPA money today, I moved it into a laddered 2-year plan, the 8 million in ARPA money, paying, mature over various times over the 2 years, and it's got a weighted average of 2.98. And those rates are only going to go up. And the way it stays is 3 months, 6 months, a year, 18 months, 2 years, so that when they recycle, we either take the cash or reinvest it. For instance, with the ARPA money, just to give you an example of the kind of returns we're seeing, with the ARPA money, under the scenario I gave the go ahead on, between now and June of 2024, we'll make $218,574 in interest off of it. So the question, do we have the cash to pay cash? We absolutely do. But now the yield curve has flipped on us. We've got greater yield off investments than we have off the borrowing.
Okay, but now it went in less than a year, went up 600,000. The price went from 1.5 to 1. So the 218 doesn't do us any good. If we sit and wait, it's going to go up 500,000 every year or 200,000 the whole every year.
So that's why
We should pay for it.
proposed that we do it.
Yes,
And
as a maintenance
we
thing.
can do it with,
But why borrow money? Just
because we're gonna be making
We're making more money on the other end.
$240,000 for the taxpayer.
Yeah, we're making 218 to spend 500.
So we're making the 218. What are we paying at 2.1? We're not making 218.
So you're yielding at a weighted average of, well, I'd have to look at this because this is a different one. So this,
Very much.
the ARPA is a 283 weighted average. So you're making a 7.3. So I mean, you're making $70,000, $80,000 over what you're paying in there.
So it's really not 218, it's 70 to 80,000. And we're gonna pay that, we're gonna pay that interest off over 10 years instead of paying for it. So in 10 years at 2.1%, we're gonna lose money.
No, you've got a fixed rate for 10 years. You've got a fixed rate 2.1% locked in bond.
Yep.
So,
Yeah, but we're gonna pay that 2.1% for 10 years.
but you're going to earn more in your investments over that same span of time.
We don't know. Wasn't that many months ago you were getting 0.3%?
And inflation
You
can go
know.
to 20 or 12, and then 80's gone.
Yeah, I just think we've got the money and not only that, then are we going to decide to never spend the ARPA money? Because that's the only way it makes money, is to say, we're not going to spend it. As long as it stays in that account and keeps drawing interest. To me, this is a matter of spending $2.1 million of ARPA money on the roof. We're spending $4.2 million as a total on the roof and other things, because we're going to spend that $2.1 million somewhere along the way, unless we just decide to leave it there indefinitely.
You do have $2.1 million opportunities right in here.
Right.
Mr. Chair. Go ahead. On the a roof with the recent storms and everything that went through this area, has there been any ideas of adjusters looking at our roof?
We haven't had any storm damage on our roof.
No worries.
With the storm,
Right.
20 years out, it won't cover 20.
I just started Wednesday.
Go ahead.
I'm just gonna throw out an opinion in that the Justice Center roof was on projected, I think 2 years from now it had gas move. So it's already been on the budget allocated. I mean, it isn't allocated, it was going to be allocated. And I'd personally like to see some of these other projects that may never get done with the ARPA funds. And I mean, we got to look at the emergency unit, gun range, but the Justice Center roof was going to be done anyway. So if we have to pay some interest on it, and I just think we got to look at some of these other projects that possibly would never get done.
Specifically?
No, it's just an opinion and looking ahead. You know, the Justice Center roof does need to be repaired. we can borrow the money and repair it on that $8 billion. Just like Chad said.
We do know that they don't improve themselves. Wasn't it always planned under capital improvement?
For 2025.
For 2025.
Yeah.
And it's
So
being
it
moved
could
up
double,
now,
right.
so.
But we're not talking about doing it
More.
in 2025. We're talking about doing it now in either case.
Resolution.
That seemed to be the consensus of general government was, we're not gonna wait that long. Now the question is, do we pay for it? Or ARPA funds, we pay for it with cash, or do we finance it?
And now doesn't necessarily mean 2022. It probably won't happen until 2023, right?
So just,
Yeah.
Go ahead, Kim.
can we get an RFP out on these? I mean, things. I mean, that would be the biggest thing to get it locked in. So we know that number. You know, that we know it's approximately 2.1.
Yeah.
You know, but I mean, can we get,
We can't put out an RFP until there's authority from the county saying, we're doing this, give us the price. We can get an estimate, and that's what we've done.
okay, but that doesn't make sense because we always do that. Then we have the amount of money. The estimate comes in with what money we have. Doesn't make sense. I mean, we did it with the highway building. We got 12 million to spend. We spent 12 million. We got 8 million to spend on that building. We spend 8 million.
That's our,
We got 2.1 to spend on a roof. It's 2.1 million. I mean, they should be coming to us and telling us a price. A little help. So to keep this moving, I will say I'd like to take line 16 and use the ARPA funds for the 2.1 million and not borrow the money. I'll start there.
I'll second that.
that's an amendment.
That's an amendment.
Motion made and seconded. The discussion on the amendment. Any discussion on the amendment?
Just clarify where we're at, please.
Well, go ahead, Doug.
No, I say clarify. He's saying he wants to spend ARPA funds on the roof.
Yep.
Right.
Simple as that.
Yep, that's simple. Just get it going one way or the other.
Any discussions?
Yes or no? Could you explain the amendment once more? Well,
Yeah,
it
the
isn't
amendment
fair
is just
to
hard
Maria.
money instead of borrow.
That's it.
Yeah.
That's it, just, I'm just gonna make it simple.
It's the resolution is to pay for it now.
Yeah,
With our funds.
yeah,
No, the rest,
No, the
I mean-
resolution is to finance.
It's the finance.
Finance.
Excuse me.
with ARPA funds.
no.
No, finance it is the resolution. Your amendment is to pay for it with ARPA
With
funds,
ARPA
not
funds.
to finance.
Not the finance, yes.
Everybody understand it?
We need 2/3.
Need
Only 2/3.
But you won't need 2/3 for the vote on the amendment.
The amendment is,
Only-
Yeah.
Just on the whole.
All right.
the vote is on the
Mr. Chair,
amendment
Mr.
only.
Chair, just a comment.
Go ahead.
Just so everybody understands, we do this, there's 900,000 remaining in our funds period. Currently, there's 3 million. So projects, the other projects listed, will be money for maybe one of them. Like the, just so everybody knows.
Okay, but, all right, but we're still roll call vote
The amendment.
on. No, we don't need a roll call vote on the amendment, isn't that correct?
Well, that's up to you.
It was called.
Oh,
That's what we call it.
you call for a roll call vote on the amendment.
Correct.
It's yes or no. Yeah, but it's just the majority on that.
Correct.
Go ahead.
Okay. Ryan Wood.
No.
Tracy LeBlanc,
Yes.
Dan Rupp,
Yes.
Barbara McCaffey,
No.
Sharon Kelly,
Still thinking. I say yes.
Tim O'Connell,
Yes.
Amy Middleton. Still have-
No. No.
Oh, okay. Jay Luke? Oh, sorry, we can come back. I apologize. You're free.
No.
Russ Arkan,
No.
John Bonaprise,
No.
Brad Olson,
Yes.
Doug Brody,
No.
Steve Wornall,
No.
oh, sorry, oh, did I miss somebody?
No, that's 14 or
Yep, so I have 5 yeses and 8 nos, and I don't know if Chairman Luke would like to cast a vote. Okay, so we have 5 yeses and 9 nos, so.
Okay, the amendment failed on the resolution. Needs 2/3 vote, or 2/3 the majority. You want to read the resolution back as presented without the amendment? Would you please? Everybody want a roll call on that? Well, we need it because we have 2/3.
So resolution to make capital improvements to the Justice Center roof using 2022 debt issuance and amending the 2022 capital and operating budget of Polk County. The Polk County Board of Supervisors, whereas the Polk County is responsible for the safety of its residents and employees, the maintenance of its facilities, and to provide the necessary support needed to accomplish this, and whereas the capital improvement identified in this resolution has been previously deferred as such, now requires immediate attention in order to continue to provide the expected services. And whereas Polk County approved debt issuance in January 2022, which allows for the use of such borrowed funds for the capital improvement of both the Government Center and Justice Center. And whereas the General Government Committee recommended at its regular convened meeting to use appropriate up to 2.1 million in those borrowed funds for the replacement of the Justice Center roof. And now therefore be it resolved that the Polk County Board of Supervisors hereby authorizes an amendment to the 2022 operating and capital budget and authorizes the county administrator to use the proceeds of up to 2.1 million from the 2022 debt issuance funds for the necessary and reasonable replacement of the failing roof at the Polk County Justice Center. And be it further resolved, the General Government Director is hereby directed to record this allocation and expenditure in the official accounts of Polk County for the 2022 budget year.
Okay. Well, roll call vote on that amendment on the resolution.
All right, Tracy LeBlanc.
Yes.
Dan Rook,
Yes.
Barbara McCaffey.
McAfee.
Oh, I apologize.
No worries, we'll get it eventually.
Sharon Kelly,
Yes.
Tim O'Connell,
Yes.
Amy Middleton,
Yes.
Jay Luke. Oh, sorry, we can come back. I have to make an adjustment on my sheet here. Denise Lally, you're free.
Yes.
Russ Arkan,
Yes.
John Bonaprise,
Yes.
Brad Olson,
Yes.
Doug Brody,
Yes.
Steve Wornall,
Yes.
Ryan Wood.
Yes.
So far we have 13. Chair Luke, do you wish to cast?
Yes.
Okay, so we have 14.
Okay. That made the grade. Now we're back to a resolution considering ARPA funds to pay for the county museum bell tower. You have a resolution in front of you. The number would be.
Lisa, did we assign a number to that?
We didn't. Right now I'm assigning it to resolution 3322.
3322.
Motion to approve.
Motion by Steve to approve.
Second.
Second by Kim. Any discussion?
Yeah, let's get it done before it goes up again.
I just need, for a point of order, now, does this have to go through, it didn't go through a committee this way, so it needs 2/3 to bring it to the floor.
It did go through
It did.
committee.
Went through
It just, Okay, just this,
General government, it just, the draft never got updated.
the other stuff isn't updated. All right.
Just for general knowledge, what is it with the bell tower? Because it went from roof to bell tower and I just didn't know what.
Well, it never was roof. It's always been bell tower.
Yeah.
It just got somehow misconstrued in the, but the resolution always specified bell tower. Because it's structural with the bell tower.
No, I just meant like, what's up with the bell tower?
It's this bowl.
Yeah.
It's actually, the bell tower has a roof within a roof as you go up to it. The inner roof, which is the floor of the bell tower, is actually leaking there, which is compromising the stairway, which has taken the tuck points of the brick and mortar from that, which is compromising the structure itself.
And you can treat that as a scrivener's error and we'll correct that. You don't need to amend.
Okay.
And now I brought.
Any other discussion? All in favor, signify by aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Resolution passes unanimously. Okay, we are now somewhere on this side. Resolution 3122, amend the 2022 budget to incorporate carry forward funds from 2021.
So this is part of our budgeting process with a couple of differences this year. Normally in July, I do a resolution that carries over restricted funds are either restricted by statute, restricted by board resolution, or designated by the board. Funds not spent in the previous year that carry over to finish them out, or funds that are a trust fund type thing that have to be carried over. So I've been going through the audit and I got the audited numbers. So going through it, I think I'll just explain section by section. Buildings and facilities, $92,600. For county building improvement project that was assigned. This is an existing fund from back in 2020. It was carried into 2021 and not spent, carrying it into 2022. Environmental Services Division, $77,018 in the conservation project account for grant projects. This is a restricted fund. $9,874 in forest maintenance roads account. That's a restricted fund by DNR. A deduction in forest wildlife habitat account. We reflect that because this is a trust account. And if they spend money, we reflect the actual value and then money comes in from the state and builds it back up. $50,000 for the Lorraine Bridge project under Parks and Trails. That wasn't done in 21, carried into 22. $29,485 for the completion of Kennedy Walking Bridge project. There was $515 spent in 2021, but the remainder needs carried to this year. And then the remaining $3,558 for the 2021 campground project that's still ongoing. That's the balance on step. Law enforcement, we'll get this cleared off the books, has a forfeiture account that never gets anything added to it because the civil forfeiture laws have changed. They've got $6 in that account. By law, it has to be carried over because it's federal money. But I'm sure the sheriff will find $6 in equipment to buy this year and zero it out. $32,000 in vehicle capital outlay. The sheriff's office ordered a truck. It's still not in. So this is money allotted in their capital vehicle account for 2021. They're waiting on the truck, so it's carried forward and added to their account this year. $25,000 in durable equipment account to reflect a grant from the St. Croix Chippewa Tribal Council. To be used for the equipment. I'll let the sheriff expand if he wants when I'm done. And then DOJ awarded $79,022 to the sheriff's office as a special allotment for recruitment and retention. That the chief and the sheriff are still determining how to spend, but this will add it to their budget this year. Veteran Service Officer Office has two restricted accounts, one for the Veteran Service Grant and one for Veteran Relief. carrying over $1,106 and $24,790 respectively. IT was allotted money for copier replacement last year. We're finally getting the copy machines. The good news is though, I think it was 35,000 budgeted last year, and we actually got the number in at 27,485. So we're carrying that forward because the copiers are finally getting here again, supply chain. Now, unique ones, Golden Age Manor, if the board recalls, in 2020, we were fortunate enough to get approved for the Paycheck Protection Program for Golden Age Manor, $973,500. In late 2021, that was totally forgiven by the federal government. So that's considered a addition to their equity fund. So the Golden Age Manager or Manor Administrator prepared a capital plan, a 5-year capital plan for those monies. That's Exhibit A. And the administrator is recommending that just like we did the trail fund from the lime quarry sale, that in Golden Age Manor's equity, we designate $973,500 for capital improvements for Golden Age Manor following this plan over the next 5 years. The paycheck protection was received only because Golden Age Manor is an enterprise. That's how we got it approved. And since that's the premise of how I put forward the loan request, it's my recommendation that the board leaves that money with Golden Age Manor. I think we could be in violation of SBA if we don't. And of that, so the first paragraph designates that fund within their equity line. The second allocates $194,700 of that money to be spent in 2022 for the capital projects listed under 2022 on her capital plan attached. Department of Administration, I'll read it and then let the administrator explain it. Addition of 1 FTE for the position of finance manager to take effect in the 2022 operating year. The FTE will have a neutral budget effect for the 2022 operating budget due to savings in other areas of the departmental budget. Mr. Administrator.
Yes, this was kind of in the works and the plans to add this position going forward. But with Chad's resignation, we thought the timing was right now. What this will enable us to do is to have that finance accounting expertise there so that when the general government director is named to replace Chad, they'll be better able to work and direct all the different departments within that division. It also frees us up a little bit from being held hostage to somebody as good as Chad was. When he leaves a gap. And we wanted somebody that could come into that position, do the finance, the accounting, and develop into somebody who could be here long-term and move to other positions as well.
It says it's a neutral budget just for the first year, and then what is it?
Yeah, then we would include that into the budget preparation of next year.
Of next year's, all right. What do you expect that to be?
Hold on, I typed this out the other.
Salary for those.
I typed this out the other day, what I thought the estimate would be. Let me find it. I would say your salary is going to be around 90,000. And then if they take the most expensive health plan, 20,000, so 110,000 with benefits.
That would be budgeted for your next budget cycle. That would go into the 100. Okay.
Then the last thing, ADRC has a protected transportation trust fund from money that they received from Wisconsin DOT. That has grown to a large number. They let them carry over money because of COVID and operations. ADRC wants to purchase a van for Polk County specifically to transport clients, the doctor's appointments and stuff like that. Their board has approved the expenditure. So they're requesting the allocation to be spent this year of the total of their trust fund of $106,496 for the purchase of that. If they don't spend it, this expires because they're nearing the end of their allocation. And that is the sum total of that amendment.
Polk County shares a van with Burnett County. So now this will allow them to have a van for Polk County and a van for Burnett specifically for Burnett County.
We share those, right, Tanya, vans, or does that just Polk County?
Yeah, I think there's one shared, the bigger bus
The
type
bigger bus
van,
type one is shared,
and then
but,
they both have smaller vehicles each county purchased, I believe.
and this one will allow Polk County to have, they won't be sharing this. This will be just for Polk County.
Hey, Mr. Chair, I have a question. Can I? this-
Go ahead.
Oh, sorry. So can I just bunch back to the Department of Administration on the FTE piece? Is the finance manager, why would this be carryover? Wouldn't it just be additional one since we're already advertising? Wouldn't it be like an additional staff that we're adding? I'm not a finance person, but why would this be considered carryover?
Not a carryover. This is actually titled as a carryover and budget amendment resolution. This is that factor along with GAM and ADRC are actually amendments to the 2022 budget.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? Go ahead, Kim.
Buildings and facilities. A lot, but what is it? What improvement project is that for 92.6?
So the best I can figure from this fund is this is something that Dana started a few years ago when they started looking at government center. And he started packing away a little bit of cash, a few thousand every year. And what happened is it grew into about $92,000. So it's been sitting there for buildings and facilities. Now that we've got government center etched out and this is what we're doing, you had this $92,600 that's sitting there. But it was at some point in the past designated by the board in the budget process for that. So I guess honestly, the way it looks to me in the budget, facilities could use it for, I mean, good God, Mo's got tons of projects. So I mean,
On the start of our maintenance.
I think that is an excellent idea, Mr. O'Connell.
Good, so that we have a
Yeah,
maintenance.
and it might be a way to look at it is we're doing that, and that's the maintenance line. And then as we talked about,
Stuff off to
Yeah.
keep up.
but it needs to be wiped off the books and cleaned off the books. It's just been sitting there.
Well, Kim, would we need a resolution though to make that change?
Well, they're working on that for that maintenance.
Well, you wouldn't for this because it's allocating it this year and the way it's written is, the way that fund exists, it's buildings and facilities maintenance. So I think Mo could spend that this
So
year.
that's his discretion.
Yeah, that's the way I view it.
Yeah.
And then the idea was in the budget process, once we get levy and all that dollars, figure out a fixed amount each year to give buildings in order to maintain our facilities, which they've never had before.
Yeah.
Any other questions on the resolution? I'll make a motion to approve. Motion to approve. Seconded.
We should have roll call for this. Unanimous.
Any more discussion? Roll call.
We'll start with Dan Rupp,
Yes.
Barbara Cap,
Yes.
Karen Kelly.
Yes.
Tim O'Connell,
Yes.
Amy Middleton,
Yes,
Jay Luke.
Yeah.
Denise Lallier Prey.
Yep.
Russ Arkan,
Yeah.
Tom Bonaprise.
Yes.
Fred Olson,
Yes.
Doug Rowdy,
Yes.
Steve Wornall,
Yeah.
Ryan Wood,
Yes.
Tracy LeBlanc. That is unanimous.
Okay. Number 13, Government Center construction update.
Yeah, Wes Boda. He updates senior staff every week, and we thought it'd be good for him to give his answers here on a monthly basis.
Okay, Mo.
Good evening, everyone. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Mo Norby, I'm the Public Works Director. Brought with me Rod Polk, my facilities manager. Give you an update on the Government Center project, and then give you an update on the change orders that's going on. This is kind of just a short, quickly update. You have this on your desk right now. It's kind of just a weekly update. I can just scroll up, right? this is kind of what's happening current week. Finishing sheet rocking, we got paint going on, installing the VAVs, Hunt's completing the roughing and the ceilings. We got finished mudding and taping going on. John Ammerheim is painting on the first floor and the ground floor. He's also painting on the main floor now also. Coming next week, we're finishing the second floor restrooms, are finishing the demoing those, sheet rocking on the ground level. Sheet rock on the first floor restrooms. That's coming along. We're installing lighting. So there's a lot going on with the finishes on our first phase here. The one thing that we have going on right now is lead times. Lead times on items are becoming very critical in our process. We're still looking at moving departments on July 25th. Is our target date right now, Monday the 25th. We're looking at moving departments on phase 1 to phase 2. What's really challenging right now, wood doors are out 16 weeks. So we got to find a way to move offices and everyone down there, so we have doors on the restrooms. And doors on the offices. Water heaters, 12 to 14 weeks. Our emergency generator is out December 1st. Our transfer switch is March 2023. Our main electrical gear is February 23, so we have to have a temporary electrical panel in there. Services as we go through that. Toilet partitions, we're waiting for a second lead time now. That's critical to try to hit that July 25th one, so that we have hidey hinders in the bathrooms to separate the stalls. Along with those other things. So there's a lot of components going on as we go in, you know. As we go through this, there's things going on. It is moving along. We are on task right now. We're going to make schedule. The lead times are very concerning on many of the items. This here is when you look into the boardroom. This is the overhang that's on the west wall. So when our new configuration comes in, you'll actually be facing north and south this way on that. You can tell that's a different color. It's kind of like a darker blue color on there. That's one of the finished colors. This is the restroom on the second floor. Part of the wall's been demoed out. All this piping has to come out. This block wall has to come out. This piping gets moved over, I believe 18 inches. Recessed. The floor has to be redone on this one. And then fixtures. Dave, help me. This here is just showing another finished wall as we're going through there. There's a lot of penetrations in these walls where the old wiring is in. Some of these, when you get back there, you'll see that instead of removing this data port here and drywalling it over and covering it because we had to move it or it wasn't needed anymore, we just put a blank on that and are painting over that because we can reuse it in its concrete walls. Otherwise, if we had to add data at a later time, it costs us a lot more money in that way. This is kind of this is the ground level restroom. What the configuration redoes when they redo the walls, they put in the new piping. This is all changed out, new flooring, drain, and this stuff is going to be very expensive as we go through. We get these updates weekly. This is the plumbing chase now that it kind of bumped out from the walls. We don't have freeze issues in the winter time. This saved us some money where we didn't have to go in and encapsulate all those inner pipe chases to insulate those back. We moved them to the outside of the wall, kind of natural insulation there. So that's kind of an update on the project. We are going on task though. The storefront windows are coming in the end of June. We're going to start, you'll start seeing the windows going on the outside of the building and backing on that one. Dave, can you bring up the other one? The other one you're probably more interested in is money, where we stand on the project and how it goes. And let me explain the sheet. This sheet I have in front of you right here, this is our ongoing worksheet we work with. It's updated daily, hourly, as we go through there. But let me explain the numbers here. The gray stuff up here, those are approved change orders that have been done. This actual value line that's on the right here, where it comes down to contingency, that's what's been spent, 290,000 so far. There's 115,000 left in contingency. That's what's been done. The row on the left shows actuals all the way down in the gray area, you match the actuals. As you get to the white lines there, those are what's projected. Those are what's projected. It's coming down the line as we find issues in the, when we open up more walls, we find things, we open them up, we look at them. They give an estimated pricing. They go out for a price for proposal to the contractors to get an official bid on it. Then it comes back, it gets vetted back through LHB. They look at the numbers to see if it's all right. We look at the numbers to see what it was, what was authorized. Some are rejected, some are credits. Change order, I think it's 12R is a credit. That was a credit. Some of them are, the majority of them are all dealing with the mechanicals on all these, whether it's different amp breakers that were required, fire alarm systems and that. What I want to bring your attention to is the ones in white here, you know, they have not been approved at all. One of these is PR 23, Building C Fire Alarm System. That's the old jail right there. It currently doesn't have any fire alarm system in it, but we have occupancy in it. To bring that up to code with fire alarms, it's going to cost us $77,000. Okay. We don't have to do that if we determine that we just want to use that for storage areas. So we don't have occupancy there, which the Wolf study said that, LHB study said the same thing. Which begs the question, if we install fire system in there saying that we're going to occupy the building, or then are we going to go move forward and update the HVAC in that building too at some point, sometime. Right now it's good for storage. It's fantastic for storage. It's attached to our building. We can get in there in the winter time. We have files over there. We have other things in there. Right now, kinship is over there and behavioral health task force. But Tanya has found space in her office for all those people. Well, not her office, but close by in there. So we can vacate that totally and not do that. There are some options to lower that cost, put some fire systems in there. They won't be the code. We have to find someone to sign off on those plans to say that that's okay. Polk County accepts that they're not the code. So I'm not really willing to do that, but that's where we stand with that. We have many of these. There's a couple of these that are shown here as change orders. They're placeholders. The AV wireless access points, that money is actually coming out of the IT budget. That's not coming out of this budget. It's there as a placeholder, knowing that those components still need to go in. We know the $45,000, that's the encapsulation for the asbestos in the offices on the top floor. So we know that number is coming to cover that asbestos up. Pre-existing precast patching, that's covering up the louver hole and taking the place of that panel on the west side of the building. So the window commissioning at the bottom, what that is a third company comes in and tests the windows to make sure they're watertight, and correctly installed. The same with the last one, the mechanical commissioning. A third party comes in and tests the entire system as a third party check to make sure everything is working properly that the contract is put in. And those items were budgeted and we rolled them into the contingency. So that's kind of where we stand right now as we work through these items.
When you roll it it into the contingency. It was budgeted, but you take it out of the contingency. Why?
It was,
That 50 grand, 50 grand to test their own work. Isn't it tested as they go?
it's a third party we hire to come in and test them to verify that all items are working.
Basically, we don't trust
It's a good fail safe for us to make sure the system works properly.
50 grand.
And that was just a budgetary number.
But we got a gray one. We got $70,000 for a toilet again here. After it was 300 and some thousand for the room.
It washes your hinder.
Oh, man. So you got
It's more than, it's more
you
than.
got 400,000 into a 20 by 20 room.
It's a,
I'm just going like, oh my God.
it's the
come on.
demo,
Today is the
it's the
day.
demo of all the walls and typing in there.
Car wash is
for,
cheaper.
Including,
Tokens too.
bringing it back up, your.
But there was 403 something in for that, and they knew what was there. And how couldn't it come 70,000 extra into an open room? Help me.
No, that wasn't an open room. That was this 70,000, they never factored in doing any kind of work on the second floor restrooms. All the other restroom work was for the ADA compliant room in the green room or in the southwest corner of the second floor. So there was never any ADA compliant. Where it was missed was that we still wanted the picture that Mo had up, that we still wanted all the piping replaced because it's all galvanized and it's all old and it's leaking. So that's
That wasn't
where.
in the original bid.
That was not in the bid. The bid was for the restrooms in the green room, the first floor and the ground floor. But for those ADA bathrooms.
Any other questions at all?
How about the one shut off valve for 10 grand?
Which number are you looking at?
I am looking at
PR 19.
PR 19, 10 grand for one valve. PR 19, the water shut off valve replacement.
Yeah, that's the removing and they have to move those pipes as well. So it's not just the valve, it's the actual moving of the inlet and where the water comes in.
The main water comes into the building.
And that wasn't planned, that got moved or shifted or something. I would think they would, that should have
That one they
been.
didn't know they had to do until they tested that valve and it failed. The valve failed.
Any more questions?
But we better run out the contingency money. Seems like they're gonna spend it. You only got a month to go.
5% contingency, given the 8% inflation rate, is a very slim contingency. It's running very tight, I'll be honest with you.
Yeah,
We are on them for
So we gotta have
everything
enough,
we can to look at it, to mind that we're getting our money's worth.
we
And
have enough money to pay for it.
They always run out of contingency. Thanks, Mo.
But thank you.
Okay,
They
We
don't
got a,
spend it, so it's gone.
all the appointments have been made, with one exception, we'll get into that in a minute, but, I need an approval of the appointments that you've been watching for the last month or so.
I move for the appointments as presented.
Motion made by Jody and seconded by
Second.
Steve, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Same, same. We're missing one on, West Central Planning. We need one more person to do that, and, we can give you a quick description. We need a volunteer. What I'm asking for. Would anybody like to volunteer? Vince will give you a rundown of what it consists of.
West Central Wisconsin Regional Planning Commission is one of several throughout the state. They cover several counties. What they do in general is they have funds and grants that the state allocates to each one with ideas on how to use it. What this West Central Regional Planning Commission will do is discuss what can we do with these funds, how can we apply them to our district. They do things like transportation studies, they do housing studies, economic analysis. One what is good about having representation on that is you find out what types of projects and issues are coming up and emerging throughout the state. And as a representative of Polk County, you can say, that may be something that applies to our county, or it may be, you know, that sounds like our county, but if we tweak it a little bit, we can do it. They also have staff. Now, when I was with the EDC and even now, when I have an issue or project and we're lean in terms of analysis and people who have time to start new projects and do research and that type of thing, I call the regional planning commission. Say, is this something that falls within your areas of responsibility? And 8 times out of 10, they say, yes, we can help you on that. A lot of times it's free. Sometimes they say, we got to charge you so much for this. So we have 3 appointments available, Terry Hauer, Denise, and we need 1 more. And their meetings, just so to give you an idea, they meet on the 2nd Thursday of every other month. So July, September, November, January, March, and May. Meeting starts at 10. They rotate locations throughout the region. The meetings last approximately 2 hours, followed by lunch. And we have, and they do sometimes remote meetings, and sometimes, you know, if you can't make it, you can do it remote.
Vince Larry Judson carried that for us for years, and he eventually got to be the president of regional planning. He was extremely beneficial to Polk County. So
They pay you $50 a meeting. $50 or $60 plus mileage.
you interested in that, Sharon?
What?
Or are you on that?
No, I'm not on that.
That same day.
I'm not on that.
Wouldn't you like to be?
No.
Well, you're so diligent, you do us a good job.
It's every other month. And where do the meetings take place?
Different regions. You could be in Clark County one time, you could be Polk County, you could be Barron County. They rotate.
Plus, you can do it online. So their online thing works real well. You can get on there and just have the meeting online.
I'd sure like to nominate you.
I have the same problem, executive committee. Going for me.
Yeah, go ahead. We can take the convertible.
All right.
There we go. Sunglasses and scarf. With a gray hair.
A girl's day out.
Volunteer. So when's the next meeting?
July.
July. July.
Yeah,
And
2nd
they're-
Thursday of July.
And they're also going to reschedule an orientation, so.
You get a pack in the mail with a complete pack, just like we get everything. Comes to you by mail
So you were on
Friday.
it before too.
Yeah,
Okay.
but then the executive committee crossed me up.
Big meeting organizer once said, feed them and they will come.
Yeah.
Okay, so that takes care of our appointments.
You, yeah.
For me, and now we have Vince's appointments.
I have 1 appointment that needs to be considered and voted upon. And that is for the Board of Adjustment, Steve Arducer. Steve is re-upping. This is his 3rd time. Full support of our staff. He's got experience on planning commissions and he's an active participant and would like to continue doing it.
Can we approve them all at once, Mr. Chair?
It's just him.
Just him. We have to carry through the appointments and the other one.
Well, I got 1 more. Yeah. I would do 1 at a time, I think.
Go ahead. Oh, all right.
Make a
motion to approve. Motion made and seconded to appoint Steve.
I'll second it.
Steve and Kim. I guess it was already. All in favor, signify by aye.
Aye.
Negative, same sign. Okay, what else do you have?
We, as you know, or may not know, we no longer have our public health officer. She has resigned from the company. And Tanya has some very strong people and asked Helen Swanson to be our interim public health officer. Tanya submitted her credentials to the state. The state approved her as an interim health officer. And this does not need a vote. This is simply an appointment, but this is more of an information for you all.
Who was our previous health officer?
Gene Schultz.
Oh, yeah.
Ellen did a really good job with the COVID coordinating. I mean, it was impressive.
He did.
Yeah.
Oh, good, okay. Now we're up to county board chair report. Pretty much you've seen what's happened. Most of it's been appointments and the meetings trying to get some outside agencies more involved with Polk County, and we're trying to get some things going on some of the committees that have been kind of in limbo. But we're moving along fine. So other than that, it's just been nothing special, just trying to coordinate things and keep them going. Administrator, you have a report.
Yes. First, you've heard Chad Roberts has submitted his resignation, and July 5th will be his last day. I just want to thank him for what he's done for me and for this county. He's been a valuable member of our leadership team. Prior to that, I coached him from the sheriff's department. I know the sheriff appreciated what he did as well. But his leadership has been very important, and he also served as deputy county administrator. As he told me, though, that he was resigning to take another position somewhere, he did say, "I'm not going to leave you." And it says something to his character. He said, "I'll stay through July 5th so that he can wrap up the audit to get our 2023 budget process going in the right direction, and to be around and help his staff as well as anyone else who comes in to help us work with that." Now, with that in mind, Don Wortham of UW Extension has agreed to step in and help work with Chad over the next several weeks or until he leaves, to pick up as much as he can, and then he will serve as the interim until we hire a full-time replacement. So we have posted that position as of yesterday. So it's good news. If you don't know Don, he has worked with us in helping set our long-term goals. He's worked with CJCC. Excellent job. He's worked with Health and Human Services, and he's from Clam Falls. So besides that, he's a great guy.
So, legal department.
What more could you ask for?
What's his last name, Chris? Did you say?
Wortham, and you'll see him and very happy and pleased that he can do this.
Been with the county quite a while, hasn't he?
Well, he's been a president of a university in Florida. He's worked with the university up in Duluth. And so he's been around, but he's been back here for, I think, 4 or 5 years. And he's really committed to helping Polk County. That's what he wants to do. With that, though, this is an opportunity. Now, Chad and I have been debating this over the last couple of years about what we do with general government. What's the best way to organize it? We are using this time as Chad leaves. We're going to have an interim HR director, human resource, because we're looking at some very strategic things, some changes, some way to improve our HR policies. And so we'll be looking at a full-time HR director. And Joe Loso, our corporation counsel, is going to step in as an interim basis and do that for the short term until we get into later in the year toward the end of the budget. Okay, we talked a little bit about the economy and the interest rates and how they're changing. And I'll just say this, and again, I want to thank Chad because we're and our treasurer, Amanda, because we're looking at the cash that we have on hand and saying, you know, it used to be the best interest rates we could get. We're just putting them in a bank and they were collecting 0.7, 0.8. interest. Now we are ladder, kind of have a ladder strategy, timing strategy, investing them in CDs and treasuries. And as a result, I think our average in the latest cash and money that we invested is going to be like 2.85%. We've got some things where we're getting over 3% interest. So with that, we think over the next 2 years, we're going to generate approximately $500,000 that we weren't going to have before. Now, you say that's great, 500,000 extra dollars, but keep in mind with this economy, we've got inflation and some other things. But it's good to know that we're investing in a way that's collecting money. The Fair Society negotiations with our executive committee have begun, and they held their initial meeting. Since then, the Fair Society has submitted a counteroffer in terms of a proposed MOU. And so I think the next step is the executive committee will meet, go over that MOU proposal, and then they need to schedule here in the near future their next session. That's all we have at this point. I just want to also say to Bob and to Mo's not here more. I don't think they are moving, and the county is moving full speed ahead with our trail network plans. Parking areas to improve access on both Stour and Gandy trails. They're developing a new 14-mile loop for ATVs in the town of Sterling. And as you know, that's expanding the existing 5-mile loop. We have a consultant working on the design of the ATV UTV park. The design will be finished, we think, in January. Construction will begin next summer. Equestrian trails are being prepared for horseback riding at Summers Lake. Then later this summer, we'll be working on a warming shelter for cross-country skiers and a new bathroom in D.D. Kennedy Park. And then additional projects are being discussed and coordinated to develop walking trails, and then trails for bikers and cross-country skiers. In addition, we just recently put out an RFP to hire a firm to conduct a feasibility study to look at potential routes for ATV and UTVs and equestrians, which will connect St. Croix Falls to Burnett County in the Gandy Dancer corridor or close to the Gandy Dancer up there. And that's, again, as approved by PTAG as well as this board. And then finally, the Stour Trail lawsuit update. I will let Malia, Corporation Counsel, bring us up to date on that.
So the latest is nothing has changed. We are still waiting for a decision from the judge on both of the cases. The case that involves the county, the Friends, and the DNR, we had oral argument and then an oral ruling from Judge Black on the petitioners, so the Friends' request to be allowed leave of the court to amend their pleadings to include a claim that the DNR should have done a particular kind of environmental impact study and made a statement about that. So the court granted their request to amend the pleadings. That kickstarted a new round of briefing schedules for motions to dismiss. The DNR filed a motion to dismiss in that case, and the county also filed a motion to dismiss in that case. And now those need to be revamped to address this new claim made by the Friends. That briefing schedule is set to end at the very end of September. So I anticipate the soonest we would have oral arguments on that motion or those motions to dismiss would be sometime in October. So I anticipate at this point the equestrian season to go on because I doubt the Friends will file another temporary restraining order or request for an injunction because nothing would have changed since they were denied last year. But I suppose anything is possible, they could file it, but that's where we are. I don't anticipate a resolution to either of the cases until at the very earliest the fall.
Okay. Thank you. That would be it then. Okay. Substance abuse scorecard.
So Vince can fire me after the meeting, but guys, I totally dropped the ball and forgot about this one today when I was doing investments. So at the board's permission, I will do it tomorrow and email it out to everybody. And then if anybody has any questions on this month's report, I'll be here for the 5th. Okay, so I apologize. And I'll be teaching somebody else how to do it before I leave.
We understand. Okay, thanks. The supervisors have any reports, meetings that they may have attended that are of interest to the rest of us? Mr. Chair, Chairman Luke, myself as vice chair, and Steve, and Mo Norby, we attended the Wisconsin Highways Association in Wisconsin, Dells. I thought some of the breakout sessions were very, very, very good. I think we all brought home some good information from the Wisconsin State DOT. There wasn't any political things. I was very impressed with that. One thing they eliminated, but the Wisconsin DOT, what's the little guy's name? He was our main speaker, and once again, the thing they wanted everybody to take home is construction safety. So that's what
He's very.
I attended the Farmington meetings and then Alden Town meetings. And on behalf of myself, want to very humbly thank all you people here for your prayers, good wishes and everything. Went through 50 cancer treatments in Arizona. When I started out, the PCA was over 21 something. Wasn't really a lot of good outlook, but everything was very successful, and the blood count last week was 0.03. Thanks, everybody. Love you guys.
Great.
I attended the Bone Lake Management District meeting, and they're still doing it on Zoom, so it's easier to be there.
Which one?
Bone Lake
Oh, yeah.
Management District, and a lot of budget, a lot of grants.
Active. Put their sign up. Anyone else? Motion to adjourn. Second to adjourn, all in favor, signify by aye. Aye.